The plywood that I buy is a 1/2 inch oversize, which is good in this case because this one edge is not very good, so I'll trim that off. I'm going to start by cutting the top and the bottom of this corner cabinet. Instead of making a corner cabinet with an angled front, this one is going to have what they call a pie cut front. With my bandsaw, I'm going to make the pie cut, so I'm tightening up the blade guides so that the blade doesn't move from side to side while cutting. I'm basically going to remove a square from the front corner. All of the upper cabinets are 13 inches deep, so I've set the fence to 12.5 inches, and then I will glue on 1/2 inch edge banding. I need the cut to be really straight and really smooth so that I can glue on the edge banding without a visible glue line. I've measured carefully and marked the cut so that I know where to stop. And now I'll cut the other piece. Many drywalled corners have a buildup of drywall mud in the corners, causing the corner not to be square, and this pushes the cabinet out from the wall. To mitigate this, many corner cabinets have the back cut at 45 degrees to help avoid that portion of the wall that is not square. This sounds easy enough, but it makes building the cabinet a little tricky because of the way I put the back on. There are simpler ways to do it, but I never like to do things the easy way. Now I'm cutting rabbets along the top and bottom of the two side pieces. This narrower piece will be the back to cover the 45-degree portion. With my dado blade and a scrap piece of plywood, I'm doing a test cut to make sure the plywood will fit into the groove that I'm cutting. This groove will be used to hold the 1/2 inch plywood back. And then I'll cut a 1/2 inch groove that's inset a 1/2 inch from the back of the two sides. Without moving the fence and the blade, I will also cut the grooves into the top and the bottom. The tricky part is cutting the back for the angled portion because I need to bevel the two edges and it's hard to measure. This part of the back is 3/4 inch plywood like the sides, and I will sneak up on the fit. It's a little too big, so I will trim it down. For this next step, I need to cut a groove into the back piece with my dado blade set to a 45-degree angle. This is also tricky and hard to measure, so I'm marking the positions and then I will line up the blade the best I can before making the cut. Of course, it's also important to make sure you cut this groove onto the right side of the back. Now I will cut the two back pieces out of this 1/2 inch plywood. I didn't want to cut into a new sheet, so this one piece is cut from some leftover marine grade plywood, and that's why it's a different color. I'll cut both pieces to length on my table saw sled, and then I'll glue everything together. Miraculously, everything fit. Now I just have to figure out how to clamp it, so I used some 2x4s to help extend one of the sides. I used a lot of different clamps and also clamped the corners to be 90 degrees so that everything was square. Everything fit nicely, so I'll let that sit overnight. The next day, I glued on the 1/2 inch edge banding. Before I went any further, I took the cabinet to the house to make sure that everything fit and to get the exact measurements of the last cabinet to make that goes between this cabinet and the microwave. Back at the shop, I'm cutting the pie cut into the 3 shelves. And then I glued on the edge banding. I also had to cut the back corner with a 45-degree cut. Now I'll start working on the door. Because this cabinet has a pie cut front instead of an angled front, the door will be in two parts, so I'm making two narrow doors. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch MDF panel, so I'm cutting a 1/4 inch groove down the middle of each piece of 3/4 inch poplar, and then I cut these pieces into the correct lengths for the rails and stiles. With my dado blade, I cut the ends of each rail to have a tenon on the end to fit into that 1/4 inch groove. And then I glued everything up. With the two halves glued together, the next step is to add the hinges. One door will have two hinges on each side, and the hinges on one side will connect to the other door. I drilled the holes for the regular hinge on one side with a 35mm Forstner bit. Along the other side, it almost feels like you're doing something wrong because these holes extend beyond the edge of the door. But it is correct. You just need to trust the instructions. These first hinges are full overlay frameless hinges that open to 170 degrees. This second set of hinges fits into that recess, but it has a metal plate that fits over the outside edge. These are specialized hinges for a pie-shaped corner cabinet with a full overlay. The other door is where the clips are mounted. Of course, there are also clips for the other two hinges mounted on one side of the cabinet. Now I'll test everything and install the doors to make sure everything fits before I take them outside to paint. I use a 1/8 inch spacer along the bottom so that the bottom position of this door matches the bottoms of the neighboring cabinet doors. It fit pretty well right out of the box, but I adjusted the hinges slightly so that the gap between the doors was consistent. I rounded over the edges with a 1/16 inch round over bit, sanded everything, and then took them outside to spray on the finish. I used Sherwin-Williams Chem Aqua Plus waterborne lacquer finish, tinted with a greenish gray color called Sensible Hue. After making the final cabinet, all of the upper cabinets are installed, and the kitchen is starting to look pretty good. So I gotta ask, would you make it?